Welcome back, friends. Hope you had a great week. Jay's got a bunch of one speeds in front of us.
Yeah, the one speed has been a super popular speed for people to throw. And I think it's always been popular, but something that really set it off was the glitch. The glitch came out and it was an instant hit with everybody. Not just because Simon was throwing it, but because people were throwing it, realizing it's a little bit more torque resistant than any lightweight putter they've ever thrown.
Old players, young players.
Yeah. Everybody's throwing them. Veteran arms are throwing them.
Right.
And seeing the benefit to it. So we plucked out one of each one speed that I have in stock at the moment. I think I'm just going to start on the right here. This is an Armadillo by Lone Star Discs. It has got a pig top, but it looks kind of like a polecat coming into the edge of it. It doesn't go straight down like the polecat does, but it's kind of on the shallow side. It's overstable and just not glidey, the opposite of glidey. So all it does is put on the brakes. Right when it leaves your hand, it stops moving forward and falls. And the benefit to a disc like this one is that you really aren't going to throw it very far. So you might as well throw it at the chains and hope you hit it. Because when you miss the basket, it's just going to plop down right past it. This is a disc that you would use, I mean, for an arm like mine, I would probably throw it within 200 feet, trusting that 200 feet away, it's probably going to be too far for this disc. Next up, we got the Polecat. This is kind of the original glitch. A really strange disc. It's a lot of people call it a paint lid.
It does look like a paint
lid. It's a paint lid. It's
That's pretty funny.
I don't know why the word symmetrical comes to mind, but it is just it's very rigid. It's blocky, and it's deep. Who throws these? Somebody on tour throws these. I think Juliana Korver throws them, and man, who else throws these? I'll have to come back to that. But they do a Polecat World Championships now, and
cool.
it's going on
like the glitch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, the glitch, I think, learned from these guys because
right.
This has been going on for 6 or 7 years now.
Okay.
The previous winner of the Polecat World Championships looks like he would be the Polecat World Champion.
That's fantastic.
He's got a mustache and a mullet, and he wears a sweatband. It's glorious.
Perfect.
Yes, very fitting.
Perfect.
Next up, we have a Beetle. This is a Colt disc, I will call it. This is a disc that hasn't been ran in a really long time, but the Latitude 64, the Trilogy guys really fell in love with this disc. And I think it kind of had like a glitch Colt following because it's a disc that will show you what's wrong with your game. I've never thrown one. I have no idea how it flies, to be honest, but it is a 1.7 - 1.0. And looking at it, it looks like a Frisbee. It's got a wider diameter. It's deep. It's kind of flimsy. It's thin. Just said a lot of not nice things about this disc, but
it almost looks like a dog disc.
Yeah, I could see it as a dog disc.
Or it's not
just kind of Frisbee it out.
Not going to hurt the dog. Oh, that's good. Still pretty.
It's harder.
That would hurt the dog,
but it's flimsy.
Yeah, flimsier
for a disc.
Right. So is that something in colder weather where there may be benefits in something like that? Where
I can see that, where it kind of stiffens up and it actually maybe flies a little bit more stable.
Right.
I don't know. There was a guy that broke out a dog disc during a round, and I thought he was joking. It was a Latitude 64 dog bite, and then he proceeded to beat me by like 8 strokes. So I can't make fun of anybody for their disc selection.
Is it anymore. Approved?
Yes.
Wow.
It's a 150 gram, just like that. I think it's a 1-speed too, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Really strange disc.
Okay. I've seen one of those in your store.
Yeah, we've had them in stock before. They're surprisingly popular.
Oh, they're down there. I see them now.
Well, then
the glitch.
The glitch. Instant popularity. I had never seen so much hype for a disc outside of like the Cloudbreaker, the DD3 when it initially released. A lot of hype behind this disc.
Yeah.
And I've thrown it. I've putt with one a couple of times, like just to throw and catch, but I've never actually gone to throw one to see what my torque would do for it. A lot of people say it's torque resistant and usable. When it gets a little windy outside, not so much, but they say it's got a real place in the bag for a lot of people. So really popular disc.
Well, I've had the pleasure of introducing the game to a few people, and when I brought them into your store, we made sure that they had that, and I really sort of kept them because it's the experience of seeing something glide out of your hands.
Sure.
So even though your form's not going to be very good your first few times, you're not going to get discouraged when you're throwing a rock or something else that's just going straight down or isn't as glidey, and that's where and again, even just the warm up aspect of it, where we could play catch, that was sort of the deal too, right?
Yes, it was sold as a hybrid catch disc,
Right.
so it has a lot of utility.
And I've done it. I've played catch with that for a while, and I can tell you it'll redden your palm if you do it
from the impact, huh?
Yeah.
It
may have been a back barbecue situation.
Yeah.
And so your few libations are going around out there, and you're still just throwing it back and forth, and it becomes like, we can't drop it. Who's going to drop it? We've been doing this for 20 minutes, so don't drop it. One of those things. And then, yeah. But it's a really fun disc, no question about it. And again, practical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's got a use in the bag and it fills a space, I mean, that's all you can really ask out of a disc.
They're not. What are they? Are they under $15?
These are 20.
Are they? Okay.
$19.99.
Okay.
They should be a little less because it takes less plastic to make them, right? 150 gram.
Supply demand.
Yep. They got a product they know people want.
Yeah, the old rule 101.
Well, the next disc is a Sonic. This is one that Garrett Gurthey has his name on a few different special edition Sonics. This is a really funky disc. It's got a dome, like a pop top on it, and almost like a polecat bottom, although it's not as deep as a polecat despite the pop top on it. It's got the ridges like a dog disc would. I guess if it kind of feels comfortable in your hand. The Alien has the same top, which is their new mid-range.
Right. That looks, I was going to say that. I thought it was an Alien when I first saw it. Oh, wow, that's beefier than I thought.
Yeah, so it's got some meat to it, and that it's heavy. This was kind of the original catch disc, really, before the glitch, and
that's pretty cool. So 175.
You see Garrett Gurthey throwing them on some really strange lines, and he's had a few throw-ins with them. There was one notable forehand. I want to say it was in a Florida tournament somewhere, where he had a forehand, and he was probably between 80 and 100 feet away, and he had just this anti-forehand out, and he just goes just a really nice little pop, and it stayed on that line and just smacked dead center trains.
It's not going to fight out of it with a -4.
So when they were running the Halo Sonics, people were going crazy. Everybody wanted a Star Sonic. Everybody wanted a Sonic in general. Like they hadn't been able to supply Sonics for a long time.
Yeah, really. So they're back.
They're back, but they still go out of stock every now and again. So
put Dusty up there.
Yep, Dusty the Squirrel. This episode won't drop before our giveaway, I don't think. won't spoil it for all the.
Well, if they see this, then they know.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, they have to listen to this episode, then to get in the giveaway. So that adds up. The last one speed on the table that we have is a Berg, and this is, in my opinion, the best upshot disc ever made. It is just like the Armadillo in the fact that it does not glide, but it will fall on the line that you put it on. I prefer the K3s because they are not as overstable as the K1s are. The K1s will fade out. The K3 will not. I can actually, they're a lot straighter. You throw it flat, it's going to go to the right for a long time and then just sort of sit down.
Yeah.
And not a long time. It doesn't have any glide, so it just sort of falls.
In a previous episode, we talked about you find that disc that you love and you
stick with it, right?
You stack it up.
Yes, right. Get your backups.
In your backups?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's one I was really worried after throwing that. This is such a great upshot disc that I could count on wind and even putting if I had to in a stiff wind. It's remarkable how it just holds, and you got to put a little more effort into it, but it's so great. But that was one of those, I came in here and I just stacked them up. I go, these are coming home, because if they don't make K3s anymore, I'm never running out of this disc.
Good.
Yeah.
Smart man.
Yeah. Well, it's it takes a little getting used to, but once you do, wow. That is, I get it. I'm on Team Berg.
Well, I definitely agree with you. When I first felt it in my hand, I kind of hated it. It doesn't really feel good in the hand up until you throw it and you realize that if you can snap it.
Yeah.
You can throw it as hard as you possibly can. You're not going to get more than 200 feet with it.
Yeah.
I've had the biggest, my friends with the biggest arms throw my K3 Berg, and they get about 220.
Yeah.
The world record distance with it is like 340, I think.
Really?
It's astonishing someone threw it that far. I want to meet that guy. Was it downhill?
Yeah, right. I love throwing it nose up because for the reasons you
Yeah.
mentioned, if it just floats away from you like this and you know it's going to drop at that basket and you can do longer runs.
Yes, yes.
Because I don't always get it to, the par 3 around circle 1, circle 2 sometimes, right? But I still like the competitiveness in me. Well, I could still run a birdie here.
Give it a chance.
Absolutely. So I just go a little nose up with that thing and it's fun. It's a really fun disc.
It's a great disc.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried a Berg, try a Berg, man. I know you like your zone. I know you like your slammer.
Yeah.
Try a Berg. It fits. It fits in the bag.
I took the zone out and have a distortion in from Prodigy right now.
The Prodigy Distortion.
That's a great disc.
I don't know if I've had a few go through the used bin, but I can't actually recall if it feels like a zone or not.
Yeah, surprisingly, I like it a lot. But that's the fun of it. I enjoy the flight of discs, and I enjoy going into a field. I enjoy throwing them all to see what they'll do.
Yep.
Not everyone's like that. Not everyone's cut like me, and not everyone's cut like you. Some people just prefer to play and have 5 or 6 discs, and that's it. They're good. They're good to go.
Well, a lot of people don't even like to experiment with other discs. It's like they want to stick with what they have. They don't want to branch out because this works for me.
Yeah, my curiosity's way.
I'm on your page.
Too triggered, man. And especially coming in here, it's just it's an overload of what ifs.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
But there's a point when, and that's funny that we're kind of drifted there, because there's a point when you have to make a decision. Am I benefiting myself by putting these new discs in and rotation like this? And I'm having fun doing it, so that's really all that matters. But at the same time, is my game getting any better because I'm rotating discs in and out all the time? And I'm not exactly sure if I'm, the shot's going to be pulled off, right? So I'm starting to thin the bag down a bit now and leave this sort of experimenting to the field, which I love doing. So.
Yeah, experimenting is fun, and I think a lot of people go through a phase where they experiment with everything.
Yeah.
I certainly did for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Of just swapping my bag out almost every time I played. Like, I'm going to take these ones out. I'm going to try this one today.
It's so great.
Because it's so much fun.
It is. And that's, it's the thing about the sport is there's reasons to go out and throw all the time. And then the bad thing about it, there's reasons to go and throw all the time. It's this two-edged sword, loving disc golf, because you always want to get out and play, and should you always? I think you got to give your body a rest every now and then. But
it's good to have a regimen.
Hard to do.
Yep.
When you're starting out, because I'm obsessed with getting better.
Yep.
And I'm to the point where it's probably not even healthy at some points.
Yeah, you can do some damage, sure.
Yeah.
You can definitely hurt yourself.
Well, I think I just get tired. I don't know if I'm not afraid of it because I used to hit a lot of golf balls. So it's sort of the same mentality, but my age is a little different. So the recovery time is a little longer.
Well, and hitting golf balls, you don't have to retrieve those. You're not going to leave your discs out there, are you?
No. And it's funny. Every time I go to the field, I have to take a piece of paper and count how many discs I'm bringing to the field that day, and I'll stuff the piece of paper in to what I'm holding the discs in. I've got one of the DD bags.
Surprised you don't have a clipboard and like an MVP disc pod, like a coach.
Yeah, well, I should, because every time I go out, I bring a different amount of discs, and so sometimes you can forget how many you have out there, and there's always going to be that odd one that you throw.
That just leaves the brain.
Right. I've left, I know, at least 3 really great discs. I had the Simon 5-speed when that came out.
The Mindbender?
The Mindbender. That's somewhere in the field.
Well, that's probably picked up by now, you would think, right?
Oh, yeah.
Passerby.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's not like the same etiquette as you'd hope is on the disc golf course. Which, by the way, been out playing since our last episode, and etiquette was on sort of the front of my mind, and was not seeing a lot of it.
Yeah, something that definitely needs to be injected into our sport is some education on etiquette, which is kind of why we talked about it, right?
Yeah. And sadly, it was and I just laid back and let them enjoy themselves. But at the same time, it's like, wow, there doesn't seem to be any desire to even like ask the question, should I go or should I wait or you go? It was just,
Yeah,
doing
consideration's a little
own,
low.
their own world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But yeah, they got to think of other people, especially when we have the course that we play is 9 baskets, 18 tees. So there's the crisscrossing all day long.
Everything shared.
Yeah. In Europe, disc golfers aren't looked at in the same sort of light that disc golfers are looked at here. There is definitely a hippie sort of thing that carried through from the older, the OGs of the sport that kept it going and deserve all the credit in the world. But there was also a stereotype that kind of went with it. And in Europe, that isn't at all the case. If you're a disc golfer, you're looked upon as someone that is like a regular golfer or a tennis player, or
you're upscale and professional.
It has higher value.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't this.
My goodness.
Are you out there just partying and throwing frisbees?
That sentence you said made so much sense, and it's absolutely hysterical. No, absolutely. Of course, the American disc golfer doesn't have the same reputation as a European one.
No, they don't. And I can't wait to get over there and play and to experience it firsthand. But it was either a conversation I was having or it was in emails or something I saw. But they were making the point, and from a European perspective, that Americans have a much different stigma that comes with disc golf.
Yeah, it's a bunch of hillbillies out there, huh?
I went to the Coyotes played Montreal last night. The NHL was here in town, and I had some nice seats, and a guy from the PGA Tour was sitting next to me, and he's been with the tour for 17 years. And I told him that, yeah, I'm playing disc golf now, and I love it. And I was trying to explain to him like all the reasons why. And that was the first thing he said. He's like, well, you don't strike me as a disc golfer. Like, what does that mean?
That switch just flips. Like,
yeah, what does that mean?
You're a pothead?
Yeah,
wow.
I don't.
You just
I don't
wander
understand.
around.
The sport does not. It's not taking this. I'm not banging on anyone for saying this, but it doesn't deserve that. The sport is challenging. It's athletic. It's hard. It's difficult. The learning curve is. You could say it's easier than golf, but it's still hard. It's still very, very hard.
Yes.
Try and throw a disc 450 feet.
Good luck, man.
Yeah. Also, I'll talk to you next year or the year after when you get there.
Yeah.
If you get there.
Our face value doesn't really have much, does it?
It's really interesting. And I really do hope that change. I think, the Eagles of the world, the Rickies of the world, the Pauls of the world, Simons of the world are really working hard with the manufacturers and of course the Disc Golf Pro Tour, to change that image, to polish it up a bit.
But we still have this image about us, and it was earned through old head disc golf, right? These guys that would go out to the course, drink beers, smoke weed, and they'd hang out at the course all day. And it's like, what are you guys really doing? But I mean,
fun.
Yeah, they're having a blast, and they see disc golf in a different light that maybe you and I do, but we see disc golf for what we want it to be. All of us do, and a lot of the new era disc golfers don't necessarily.
Well, it's not going to move the sport forward if you're sort of sitting back like that, and it's for the few of us that have a different mindset for the game. We don't care about the competition as much. Maybe they do with but it isn't about like, are we better than the guy in the next state? But then that doesn't make sense, because the PDGA is all about tournament play.
Yes.
And moving around to state, and then having your masters and your national events, your world events. So it seems to me that it should be in their best interest. You're going to have those ancillary groups and everything that you're, whatever it is, that are, we don't want this to change, and
this is how it's always been.
Yeah,
it's how it's always going to be.
Yeah, it's fine the way it is, and but it's like everything else, change is a good thing, and in this case, it's a great thing, because we love the sport. We want to see more talent flood into it.
Yeah.
I want to see more Anthony Bareilles. I really do. I want to see where this thing can go.
We got to stimulate that growth, man,
Oh,
and get the kids throwing discs.
yeah.
Yeah, let's go with.
We got to get more caffeine in you tonight.
Well, I had a pot of coffee.
Oh, you've had a long day. You've
earlier
been
today.
You've been here since 7 in the morning.
It's been a long day.
I'm sorry. He's been here a long time. It's 12 hours later, guys. So
I'm lucky enough to like being here, so I don't feel like I've been here all day.
So cut Jay some slack tonight, and I'll do the same. He's been here all week and all day today. What I was gonna brush over a little bit was, we're going into contract season. There really hasn't been a lot of action yet. You see that there's some talk about this and some talk about that, Gannon and Discmania and all that sort of stuff. You see it out
Speculations.
there. Yeah, there's speculations everywhere.
Running wild.
But that's what's fun. That's what we all love about this time of year.
It's exciting.
Yeah. But what I was going to step into is something that's a little bit more, I don't know if it's serious in nature or if it's more worrisome in that. Let me give you an example. If you're a young junior player and you've been really doing well the last 4 years and you've been throwing Innova discs, okay? You're really happy, you know your discs, you've changed them in and out, but it's still that same destroyer that you love, that type of thing.
You're pretty well dialed in,
You're
right?
You're dialed in. But then another company sees what you've done and they're like, want to offer you a 1-year deal to come throw their discs. Now, you're a young player. That's going to be very exciting to have someone show desire in you representing them. That's going to be, first and foremost, super cool.
Yeah.
Right? But if you take that gloss off of it, what are you really looking at? So now you've been playing really well and you've developed your game and you've got all these years using discs that you know really well.
And if you're supported by a company beforehand.
Well, no, I'm just saying that they're random.
I see. Okay.
They just chose those discs because maybe dad,
this stuff works.
Maybe uncle, maybe mom, whatever, threw those discs and said, you're going to start here.
Yep.
And they just stayed within the brand.
Okay.
And that was more true a few years back than it is now because of all the diversity.
Right. You only had Innova and Discraft not too long ago.
But the point is that, okay, there's no loyalty due to contractual loyalty. Okay.
Okay.
So they're just juniors. And
they grab
now a 1-year deal's put in front of them, but they've got to change their bag out.
Yep.
Okay. Now that generally happens in this time of year where you've got the end of October through maybe the end of February to try and figure it out.
Yep.
Now, depending on where you live, that could be a problem. Or you're going to be thrown into a net. Or you're going to be out in your garage, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of ways to do that, but the best way is to play. No question about it. And to see the flight of the disc and all of that, not throwing into a net. So is it a good idea? My point is it a good idea to take the deal because it feels so great that someone wants you? Or do you stick with what you've got and keep going out there and trying to make more of a name for yourself to see if your value and your stock level can go up and maybe get a 2-year, maybe a 3-year deal, whereas now you've got time to get used to those discs? Because we just watched one of the best players in the world, Simon Lizotte, change to MVP. And it was almost 3/4 of the way through the year, and he still didn't have his bag, it seemed, dialed in, did he? He was still talking about this or that going in or not being sure.
Well, it's crazy. He still managed to win an Elite Series event.
Yeah.
So even though his bag might have not been exactly where he wanted it to be, which is a very pro thing to happen, he still took down a couple tournaments.
Yep, he did.
From behind,
early,
actually.
Too.
Yeah.
Won early, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nashville was fairly early.
Music City.
He was throwing it really well because I went down to Tucson and he was throwing it really well in Tucson. And we thought maybe he'd pop off in Vegas right out of the gate because it looked like he might. Well, then he sort of had a couple of bad days in the wind, but
it just happens to some players. Katrina Allen's one to mention. She moved to DGA right before the season started. And we all thought, well, she's not going to have a very good season. It's going to take her a while to figure it out. And then she won Vegas, the first event of the tour with DGA.
Yeah.
That was insane.
So the possibilities are there, but I've also seen her down here in the wintertime throwing.
Yes. She spends a
Okay.
lot of time here in Arizona.
Yeah. So there's some advantage. She's a seasoned veteran, world champion.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, you know, yeah, she's going to have advantages that someone coming up might not have. And should they take the risk? I really think that those young players should think about it long and hard before they make a decision on going with a brand, especially if it's a 1-year deal. To me personally, I don't think that's worth it. I don't.
No, especially because I don't think they realize they might have room to negotiate. You can come back and say, look, if I'm going to be with your company, I need 3 years and I want this. They could come back at them and say, this is my demands to play for you.
Yeah.
That's something that might not cross their mind. But it is exciting. You got a 1-year deal through a company that's taken interest.
Right. A disc manufacturer, that's cool as it gets.
Sometimes it's good to step back and just take a breath.
Well, I think so. And it might be that some of the disc golfers going forward that want to play on the tour, that really want to try and make a living out of this, start looking at maybe regional sponsorship first. See what happens with that. If there's disc stores, great. If there's not, maybe there's a local restaurant that might see the value in this. There's a lot of those restaurants and VFWs and things like that support baseball. They support football.
Yeah.
Teams, right?
Right.
Baseball teams. You see it all the time. Those and pizza stores are always on front of young kids' jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
When they're playing, they're getting those sponsorships. Well, if you're a disc golfer, why not think outside the box and not try and put all that pressure on yourself to get a manufacturer? Maybe get the local pizza guy. I'm totally serious.
Well, yeah, that would be awesome.
Maybe they'll give you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they're over here, and then you get someone over here that's $10,000, and now you can go to X amount of events with that money. That type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can keep the disc that you've got, keep grinding on it, getting your game in shape to where you can compete at the highest level. And so that's what I wanted to start off with on sort of the contract parts. I think
I'm glad we're doubling back on this because it is a very exciting topic.
It is. No, it is. And it deserves definitely not just our time. I think people enjoy it. I think people like to figure out where it's going. But I wanted to put some light on the fact that when you look at these contracts that are all coming up, and now I've printed out 3 pages of stuff. Now some are 2024, 2025. They're obviously set through, but many are up this year.
There's quite a lot.
We went through that list already. Yeah.
Well, we didn't even go through the whole list. I just picked out my favorites. There was probably 20 on that list.
Right.
So
but so many were 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah.
They went 2022 to 2023. What? Or 2023. Just the year.
Yep.
So that's really interesting to me. If you're a manufacturer, great. I see that side of it big time. You want to try and get the best talent you can in a way that doesn't hurt the bottom line too much. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, you're set on your expectations of growth with the company and sales and so on and so forth. And you got to figure out your marketing dollars and you got to figure out your player dollars. Where all that's going are sort of all lumped in together. But the goal of a company is to get the best player possible for the least amount of money. Period. You want to get that lucky strike, right?
Yes.
And seems to me Prodigy does a pretty good job of finding young talent.
My goodness, they have such a good team.
Right. And Discmania did really well finding their young talent.
Yep.
And on and on. Obviously, Innova and all the others out there, Discmania, our Discraft.
Discraft's got a deep team, but they're just throwing money at it at that point.
And now it looks like they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it looks like they are. Where seems like there's less sprinkling, there's more meat on the bone. Who's getting it?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of carved into a Yeah, it's sort of that approach, which is great, makes sense. But it's all the more reason why do you take a 1 year deal when you're looking for that 2-3 year deal. So let's take for instance um, Gossage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I said before I don't think he should take anything less than 3 years
Absolutely.
from anybody.
For a player like that,
Yeah.
yeah. Look
I
at
think-
how much coverage he's had in the last year.
Yeah,
My goodness.
I think his putting stuff he'll fix that. But that's the only thing keeping him out of a ton of wins
Yep.
and a ton of podiums.
Yep.
Honestly,
I completely agree.
But I think he'll figure it out. He just seems like he's got that ability that work ethic to, you know,
His focus,
Yeah,
everything
it
about
doesn't-
it is very
you
good.
don't see him get all stompy mad. Everyone does, but you know, it doesn't seem to that I can tell. It doesn't seem to affect him too much. It gets in his head a little. I know he's been rattled. I've seen him getting rattled, right?
Well, it's easy to get rattled when you're on the card
Right.
with the best players in the world,
Right.
and you just dropped a stroke to him.
Right, and you should have made it, and now it's in your head. I should have made that. Why didn't I make that? Go to the next tee. So can he drop it or can he not? It goes back to the mental game. Can he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can he move forward?
Can you reset?
Right. But I think he's got enough reps in on the tour now to show that he's definitely worth some tenure with the company, I believe. So there's a couple of things. I think I've beat that point to death. 1 year's. It's
Kinda
great.
silly.
It's great if you're a company. It's
Yeah.
not so great if you're a player.
Yeah, maybe fight back a little bit for more.
Well, yeah, believe in yourself. Go out and have a heck of a year doing what you do, and you can probably come back at a higher value.
With the amount of players that end this year that are worth a lot in the disc golf community's eyes and for coverage, and there's a lot of factors. There's social media posts. They're worth quite a lot. All these players,
Yeah.
that are ending this year.
But again, I've said it before, and forgive me for continuing to bring these things up, but you can't keep ringing out disc manufacturers for dollars, because you're not ever going to be happy with the dollars you get unless you're the elite of elite, and
Yep.
that's just the way it is. So what are the other opportunities out there, like golfers?
Yeah.
You know, you see golfers wearing
Nike.
brokerage house
Yeah, there you go.
stuff. Yeah, clothing lines. There's all kinds of other avenues to bring revenue in to help.
Well, I think Ricky's been really good
give
about
you-
reaching for extra sponsorships,
he's excellent at it.
because he's got a clothing sponsorship. He's got C1 Disc, and he reps some other brands as well.
LWS.
Yep.
Um,
Intellectual property.
yeah, it's really, Ricky's really good at that, and he knows his value.
Mm.
You know, and that's a person who'll sit down with you and, you know, have that conversation. But that's what it takes. So if the Ricky Wysocki's of the world, who are at the top of this game, okay, if he can go and sit down with whomever
Hmm.
and have that conversation about his value and sponsorship, would love to have your sponsorship dollars.
Yep.
In return, what I'm going to be able to offer you, he's saying, those types of things. Outside of the disc golf, I think that is what has to happen.
It's a big part of the future.
I just think it has to happen. I don't see how these disc manufacturers can be counted on year in and year out as the pool gets deeper and deeper to throw 2-year, 3-year contracts out. They can't, because they see how deep the pool's getting. That's why they're doing 1-year contracts. It only makes sense.
God, that makes sense.
Right? So when you look at all the names on here, and they're all such good players,
Yeah.
but they 1 year.
Hmm.
It's really eye-opening when you start to pay attention to it. You know what I mean?
Well, I always thought the 1-year thing was weird, because why would you only want them for a year? Don't you want to keep this guy on your team for as long as possible? But if it's cheaper, of course.
Yeah, and I don't think that it really puts a lot of "we believe in you" behind
No.
it, right?
We'll give you 1 year. That's kind of insulting, isn't it?
Well, you look at like baseball players' contracts. They're multi-year, and
Yes.
basketball multi-year, hockey's multi-year, football's multi-year. Within reason, because people can get hurt. in those contact sport games. So your contracts are usually 3-5 years max, unless you're elite again in those too.
Well, there's a lot of insurance that's involved
There's a
with
ton
that
of
stuff
insurance.
too.
There's a ton of insurance involved.
Yeah, I think David Beckham's legs were insured for $300 million.
Yeah, that
each.
Yeah, that one surprised me. Is that right? I know you're a soccer guy, so I believe you. But that's exactly right, and I'm sure they had the same sort of thing when players can't play. There's some sort of insurance that kicks in on that those premiums you're paying on players are kicking in to help balance that offset. So that makes perfect sense. But it sure seems to me that, and I hope that disc golfers start finding other ways to.
But you got to fight for it.
Yep.
You got to go out and earn it.
You got to meet people. You got to introduce yourself. You got to tell them about the sport. You got to introduce them to the sport. Get them excited about the sport.
Show them what you've done. Show them what you can do.
Exactly. And there's great post coverage. And if you've been on post coverage, you have value. You have value.
Yeah, look, this has 40,000 views. And immediately they say, oh,
right,
the sport does have some credibility.
Right. Exactly. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. Yeah. Do you want to go down names? Do we really want to break it down?
Do we want to talk
the nitty gritty?
We can go 2 hours talking about names here.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Well, we kind of already went through names and predictions of what we think, who's going to stay, who's going to leave.
Yeah. My biggest, I'll tell you this. I think Nicholas Antela could end up with MVP. That's my
MVP's looking to pick somebody up, man.
And I know Simon thinks the world of that young man, and I know he believes in his game, and I know he thinks he's one heck of a player.
It's a good call.
And
if you're right, we should celebrate somehow with cake.
Okay. Yes, I get to wear the funny hat that Johnny Carson wore back in the day when he would predict with the envelopes. I forget his name. Carmen something or other.
Yeah, then we'll do another big giveaway or something, to help everybody can celebrate.
Yeah.
We made a right call. We all win.
Well, that's just one. That's just one.
Yeah.
I think, everyone's looking at Gannon right now because those are big dollar ones. They're looking at Eagle. Those are big dollar ones.
Yeah.
Page, I'm telling you, Page is really interesting to me because it goes back to if you have a manager of a Major League Baseball team and they're on the end of a 1-year contract and they're not getting an extension and they're having a 100-win season, something's up. Something's amiss.
Yes.
There should be an extension. There should be something that's shown that we believe in you, we want to go further with you. When I don't see that in disc golf, I think immediately that they're thinking about that player, they're hedging their bets, or they're looking at the younger talent coming up, or pulling that money into that premier player.
Well, when the announcements have been really, really big over the last couple of contracts, look at they brought Ricky in on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Where are those big announcements and making a big showcase of marketing for your platform? That's why you have the player, right? Is to market him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's coming off of COVID dollars. You're not going to see that.
Yeah, that was such a boom.
Yeah. Well, you'll see it maybe again, but
sure.
Not this year.
No, I don't think so.
No, not this year. You're not going to see that this year. But you could see something that is pretty significant because, again, the names we've mentioned that are out there are significant names. They're elite players.
Well, and coming back to Paige, though, she hasn't really displayed, she's, of course, a great player, and she's not any worse than she was. I think the pool just got deeper for talent. But as of right now, she hasn't really had the best mentality on being a personality. Her personality has been more so becoming herself and not so much a competitor. Yeah. So she's kind of lost some of the value there, I think, as far as face value for sponsorships.
Yeah, I haven't walked in her shoes, but I could imagine at a very young age, there was a lot of pressure on her to.
I think so too.
Yeah, you can be the best at this. You love the sport. You're throwing it as far as most of the guys.
Yep.
This is incredible. Run, and maybe she didn't get the chance to have the high school days that she wanted to. That type of thing. We don't know.
Maybe she didn't get to grow up.
Right. There's sometimes when that happens with you see artists in music and other things that they do it young. They seem like they have to go backwards a little bit to feel like they didn't miss out on something that had a lot of value in most of our lives with
Yeah.
friendships and things like that. But not saying she doesn't carved out amazing friendships when what she's done, she has, I'm sure.
Yes.
But there is sort of that what if, the kind of wonder question marks, and I put everything into this, and maybe
Feel like
I
you
just
missed
need to be
out.
selfish for a while. And I certainly can appreciate that. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from a business perspective. Why isn't that extension done on a 5-time world champion? Why?
Yeah.
Why would that even be a question mark?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something there that I find interesting, but we shall see.
Time will tell.
Yeah, Nathan Queen, Philo Brathwaite, although he has great value. Holly Finley.
Philo ain't leaving.
I
I don't think Holly's going to leave either.
But what are these 1-year deals? Isn't that interesting? They're all 1 year. Why is Philo 1 year? Why isn't he like a legacy 2-3 year? We'll do something with you.
I don't know.
That was my point about. That's my point about trying to get revenue, build your value up outside the sport. And I know that some of the players do clinics.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a way to. I see Drew Gibson does them here in Arizona.
Yep. Get your name out there.
Yeah.
Get your face out there.
Well, it's revenue stream.
Yeah.
It's a revenue stream. So clinics in the off season, I'm sure that's the last thing they want to do. But again, if your contract's up and you're getting 1-year deals, it might really be important to try and find other revenue streams that doesn't affect your playing.
Yeah. There's still demand out there.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you go out and pick those up? I think, I don't know. I honestly, I think it would be pretty cool if you could bring some sort of a portfolio into a business, small, medium, or large, and say, this is what I think my value is, and I'd love to wear a shirt from you when I'm in this state or at this particular tournament. If you could give me this amount of money and maybe this, that, or the other.
Well, somebody that's running a company wants to see that too. When
Yeah.
you're being sold to, don't waste my time. Put down the data in front of me. I can read it
Correct.
and make a decision right there. Yeah, this looks good. This doesn't look good.
As a business owner, you totally identify with that now.
Yes.
Right? You just get to it. Get to the meat and potatoes. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Okay?
I don't need the fluff.
I don't need the fluff. Don't want the fluff. Your time's valuable. So hopefully there's some lessons in there for you up and comers, the veterans out there. I know you guys have got things figured out, but not everyone does. So there's certainly ways to keep yourself involved in the sport and keep your game evolving.
Play the field.
Yeah.
Measure your options.
Yes. Believe in yourself
Mhm.
and put a little money on the line with yourself. Like I'm not a big gambler on games and stuff like that. I have a lot of friends that are, and I totally get it. But when it comes to betting on myself, all day long, not just business, but if you and I are going out to play, I'd rather spend money on my arm than, betting on a game. I like that. I believe
It's
in
in
myself.
your hands.
Yes, it's in my
you
hands.
have control.
Exactly. And I feel like disc golfers, if you're in the top 300 in the world, you should all feel that way. It should be just burning inside you that you want to show the rest of the world
Yes.
how good you are,
Be fearsome.
your potential.
Should we talk about what it's like to be a tournament director?
I couldn't tell you.
It sucks. It sucks so much.
Oh my! I did not expect to hear you say that. That's funny.
The only reason why I wanted this segment is so I can complain. And so people have to listen to me complain about how hard it is to TD a tournament.
Okay,
Because I've been running events for 5 years now. I just had something on my Facebook memories pop up saying, this is my first tournament, everyone. Look at me. I like disc golf. And it's for the ASU team. And I looked at that, it was like 5 years has gone by since I started running tournaments. And I have evolved from this innocent, nice young man into this calloused, salty disc golfer.
Leathered. Nice and leathery.
Because my entirety of putting together a disc golf tournament is avoid complaining.
Yeah.
That's my only mentality into running it because of because of the feedback you get, is almost never positive. It's always just like getting hammered.
Impossible to make everyone happy.
It is not possible to make everybody happy.
No.
So even if you do the best job that you
Right.
can do and you do everything right, you will get somebody that will complain.
Sure, of course.
That's extremely,
Especially in our day and age. It
Yeah.
seems like that in.
mhm.
The complaining's in. I don't know where that came from, but it's bad.
Yep, it's rough. So there's a ton of planning, and if you have to make a lot of decisions about sanctioned, unsanctioned, what you're trying to do with a tournament, where you're going to host it. I mean, there's a lot of facets to being a tournament director, and I know that the young player goes and plays events. And they say, "Oh, I kind of want to run one of these," and I was that player too. And everybody should run a tournament. Every single disc golfer should just run a small disc golf event just to see what it's like.
It's like
get a
everyone
taste.
should have a waiter or waitress job.
Yes.
So you appreciate that side of it.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Because then you have a lot more respect for the position.
Yeah.
And you're more willing to help make it work for everybody.
Correct. Well, I mean, people have lives and they're hoping to play in the tournament, can't play in the tournament, or last minute can play in the tournament. You're getting everything all at once.
Yes.
Especially that last week, I would imagine, is really tough. And then the day of is probably pretty brutal. All right. Well, the Phoenix Fall Classic.
It's coming up in a couple weeks. It's a B tier. I've been preparing a long time for this. I was working with a tournament director that we had to part ways because he had some things happen. And
so you're bearing it all.
Yeah, basically just bearing it all.
Okay.
You got to make a flyer. I got some custom stamped discs done. Everybody's getting a polo.
Nice.
Which is new for me. So not just a regular cotton whatever or dry fit shirt.
Yeah.
It is a polo.
Yeah, but that sort of stuff.
It's going to elevate the tournament. I want people to talk about it and make it a bigger deal.
Absolutely. But then also next time you go to do it, I would imagine it gets a little bit easier. You can't change the complaining part of it. That's
no.
But
it's just like riding a bike.
The details on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit easier.
You don't get training wheels. You have to get on the bike.
Yeah.
And you have to ride it. And you're going to fall over a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you get to the point where you're hosting just C tiers. If you jump up to that B tier, well, now it's like, just to go with the bike comparison, well, now you got to make a jump.
Right.
You got to hop onto a curb.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of extra effort.
Yeah. Sure. I just heard Terry Miller talk about, he figured he did something like, I don't know if it was 300 to 500. He's TD'd that many.
He's TD'd that many?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
20 years.
Way to go, Terry.
Yeah.
I just saw.
It's an insane amount.
He posted on his Facebook recently about coverage from him in like 2000 or when was it? Like 1997 or something. He was our own Terry Miller. He's like putting out at like USDGC or something. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
That guy goes back.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely an OG.
He's earned his position.
And he knows everyone. He's so likable.
Yep.
But he also talked about some of that and
running events.
How many he did. Yeah. So and I know there's people in this region. I'm starting to recognize names.
Yeah.
So they're obviously good at it. They obviously like it. There's obviously aspects you're always going to have that are there that are unfortunate, but overall the pros outweigh the cons. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Or not saying?
Yeah. So I was very, very negative into running into the I needed to complain for a second, obviously, but no, running tournaments are necessary. It really supports the disc golf community and gives players a social environment to compete in disc golf.
Yes.
And tournaments for me have never really been that serious. It's more so just a social gathering. You're surrounded by disc golfers all day. I can't imagine a better day.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day. And then people that facilitate that, you've really got to be thankful that this event was put on.
Well, I got to play the Memorial this year and going out to Fountain Hills and seeing the OB and seeing the colorful flags and the outlines of the islands and it really,
it's a cool experience.
It's a really cool experience. And I was very grateful. I was gracious with everyone that was working there and appreciative of volunteering and their time, and
Yep.
and everyone in the card was always like that, and thanking people for helping. So I do think that the disc golf community, even though it could be a whiny group at times, overall really appreciates what you do.
Yes.
So that's thank you.
Yeah, because most people they only see the face value of it. So when they complain, usually when you give them the reason, they go, "Oh my God, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. They were just upset
Yeah.
at something. I was upset about it too, but this is just how it is, you know."
Yeah. Right.
So most people do respect the role and are supportive of the role.
Right. Well, I can tell you what Jay's referring to. He sent me a text yesterday, and it's a par 3 over this wash, but it's a very narrow wash.
It's a gutter.
It's a gutter, but it was this deep with just
Dirt.
everything.
It had growth. Yeah.
Right, and it aesthetically it didn't look that great, but I could also see where if you're trying to throw some out of bounds around that would definitely be a hat.
It's going to be an island hole, and I don't want questions.
Right. So he cleared it all out himself, and it was an undertaking. So it was impressive.
Very proud of
How's
that.
the back?
It's good, man. I haven't thrown since then. I meant to throw today just to like loosen up a little bit, and I didn't get out.
The blisters on the hands from the rake and the shovels and everything else.
I mean, they're a little thicker than before.
Yeah,
They're
I
fine.
hear you. Good. Well, we're glad you're doing it. And I wish I was playing it. I'm sorry I'm not.
Can't make them all.
No, can't make them all. I do try though.
I dropped out of my last one because it was really strange. I had hosted a glow tournament,
Yeah.
and there was a C tier during the day that I thought I could go play, and then afterwards I would set up the course and then go. I ended up setting up the course for the previous. I think it took me 3 days in a row of going out there, putting paint on the ground, and setting up tee pads and glow sticks because it was a glow round.
Right.
All the lights and all the 18 because I had to add 9 baskets. Yeah,
Right.
it was a whole thing.
Yeah. That's a whole thing. And then try and play your own event.
And I didn't play it. I had another solo show.
Right.
I'm kind of thankful because, my goodness, it was too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guess how many people complained?
Oh no.
One.
One?
Well,
that's worth it.
I think I had 40 people show up in one.
I really think if you can't go to a glow frisbee disc golf event and you're complaining, man, wow. You need to go get some whatever medicine that is that fixes that because that's
the chemical imbalance, huh?
That's as much fun as you can have with your clothes on right there. Throwing glow discs around is that's a great night. Well, Dave Dunapace, I thought, did a nice job of explaining that number system with Innova.
Yes.
Who are sort of the pioneers of the number system. Is
they
that
invented
right?
it, yes.
Okay. So he said that whatever the let's say the second number is, that float number,
glide.
The glide number is in comparison to all the other same, let's say it's a 5.
Yes.
So it stays in that line of 5s.
Right.
So our 5501 might be someone else. It could be a 5701 or a 5301,
yes,
depending on what they've manufactured in that same mid-range. So I found that to be very helpful in understanding where they were going with that.
It's pretty smart.
For me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't compare us to someone else's glide because our glide is based on what we know and what we can control.
But Innova also has the biggest, and just to criticize Innova a little bit, they also have the biggest discrepancies. They just came out with the Alien, and they call it a 5203. It's like a 5502.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is a super glidey disc.
Oh, cool.
And it hangs onto the line that you put it on with a little bit of fade at the end.
But again, it's comparing it to what?
You kind of have to just compare it to, well, you can compare it to Innova. So you have to compare it to like a Mako. Yeah, it's got just as much glide as a Mako. Okay. That's insane. You called that a 2 glide, dude. That stays in the air forever. What are you guys doing? So
well, we're in Arizona too, so things glide down here a little better.
Things are different here for sure. People look forward to playing in Arizona. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The flight numbers across the board. Everybody has just a reference on the disc. It's just a guideline.
Yeah.
It's not a do all tell all. This disc will do this. That's kind of the hard part about when you pick out a disc. You look at the numbers and say, well, this should fit my arm, and you throw it in. It really might not.
Yeah.
It's really tough when you go and shop for discs. It's almost where you need to go to a physical brick and mortar store and tell them what you have and what's working and what doesn't work and what you like.
I've said it more than once on this show.
You got to figure it out, and it's so hard to figure out on your own.
Yeah, that's why I believe it's really important to stand in front of someone that understands exactly what you have in your hand. It's easy to buy discs online. I get it. You know, we've all done it.
That's all I did for the first few years.
Yeah. But until you actually put that in your hand and you talk to someone who's thrown it or, you know, has your knowledge and background in, you know, what discs can and can't do, yeah, it's huge value.
You got to experiment and figure out what's right. I mean, before Innova had flight numbers, you just had to throw the thing and see what it did.
Right. Right.
You'd have an Excalibur and a Sidewinder, and like, well, I hate this Excalibur. It doesn't go anywhere.
Well, still, even then, they were taking them off of the, you know, the machine, and they would maybe put X out on this side of the room and another 100 on that side of the room, another 100 on that side of the room, but the air conditioner's blowing on that end. So these are going to dry
That's
differently.
right, yeah.
They're going to dry differently than these ones over here that don't have the direct air conditioner blowing on them.
It's like aging bourbon.
So these ones bubble a little bit more. Those ones are a little bit flatter.
Mhm.
You have all this inconsistency going on, but I think they've really fixed a lot of that. But
I'm sure they
in
have.
the old days, I can see where you were buying something and it was like, well,
how do I get another one of these?
yeah, exactly. I got the same one and it's totally different. But I can understand why. You know, we were learning. Everyone was learning back then. But the processes are tightened up now. They're very, very rigid in what they can and can't do. And
yeah, the injection molding process has really gotten good.
yeah.
And looking at like what Latitude 64 does with their Raptor eye plastics, how good is that? How pretty is that? And how great do they fly? It's all win-win-win.
If I would hope Latitude or Innova, I would love to go to the manufacturing facility and see this whole process.
Latitude won't let you. They keep their cards close to their chest.
Do they?
Yeah. That's kind of what's really cool about them is they've got a process in it, and they're probably the best injection molders of discs at least on the planet.
I'll sign a NDA. Okay.
Look,
No problem.
bring us in, guys.
Right.
We won't tell nobody.
Not afraid of attorneys. We'll sign the paperwork. But honestly, yeah, I would really love to understand that process, and not for my own personal.
Just intrigued by it.
Yeah, it's curiosity. That's why I love the game. I find it a thinking man's game.
It is.
Thinking person's game. You can't
The strategy
just
about
go
it.
and throw a disc. There's a lot going on there, and that's what makes it. And I was sitting with the guy from the PGA at the hockey game last night, and that's what I was trying to explain. It's like, look,
God, that's gotta be so hard.
golf balls, man, and it's hard. I get it. I can make them go low. I can make them go high, left, right. I can do all that stuff. Spin on the green, whatever. But have you ever thrown a disc 400 feet and it did an S on the way there?
The shape of the shot is so much different.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And you can actually manipulate that just like you can in golf, but there's only so much you can do with that sort of
That's right.
Margin of error with the head of a golf club.
That's right.
The margin of error is minute. And it really is to a certain extreme with disc golf, but not as much. But you can do more as a result of
the freedom.
You can be more creative.
That. Yes.
Yes. And that to me kind of gets at what I love about this game. It's really
That's what drew me in. When I first turned over a Stingray, my goodness, there was
right?
nothing cooler than watching a disc stand up and turn.
No. So we've got a disc that's still out there for grabs on the Instagram page, which is
we have a Grace
attention underscore
disc attention deficit
underscore disorder. So go in there and sign up. Try and win that wonderful Grace. It's beautiful. Good to have in the bag. And then there's the 2 Lunas that are on there too.
Zones.
Or the 2 zones.
Yep, the prototypes.
Sorry, the 2 zones. And that one is a little harder to win because the value is higher, obviously, but we make you try and find the name of our friend.
Yeah, that's right. You got to do a little bit more digging to
You gotta
get
do a little more digging.
entry into that one. And I believe I put the drawing on that November 8th,
Okay,
which I figured
it's coming up.
that's Wednesday. That sounds like our day. So we should do a live maybe on our Instagram to draw it.
Ooh, that'd be fun. We're usually here on Wednesdays, in case you're wondering. So great show. I appreciate your time.
That was
I know
fun.
you're tired. I know you had a long day.
I'd rather be here than anywhere.
Love you, buddy. All right, 7 in the bag. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.